Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Obviously on the go. So thank you for taking some time to just, connect with us in the media this morning. So, hey, before we get started with questions, just give us a little bit of a recap of last week and Speed Weeks in general, and then bringing home a top 10 finish in the Daytona 500.
Yeah. So thanks. It was a busy week, obviously with a bunch of stuff going on down there in Daytona. And then we just a new team, new procedures with Ryan Sparks still leading our unit. To have two cars down there in the top 10 after it's all said and done with Spire Motorsports means a lot. I think it means a lot to TJ and Jeff too. Financially, obviously Daytona 500 is a big one. So it certainly started us off on the right foot. And I think it should build some momentum. We have a great starting position this weekend, starting 7th. So I'll have at least 6 people in front of me to slow me down before I get to turn 1. I'm certainly not a road course ringer. I have a little work to do on that, but it'll be good to learn from some good guys in front of me and see what we can do this weekend.
Okay, we'll now go to media for questions. A friendly reminder, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand within the Zoom platform or send us a chat. We'll also pop our cell phone in the chat and you can use that as well. To start us off with questions, we're going to go with Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. Corey, I want to get your perspective on this. Certainly, crashing in speedway races is nothing new, but when you look at the last 5 Daytona 500s, about 80% of the field has been involved in a crash. When you go back the 5 years before that, you're looking at 45%. So certainly a significant increase the last 5 Daytona 500s over the previous 5. And I'm curious, at what point does a trend become troubling? And is there a solution to this, or just say, hey, the cars are built to protect the guys, the drivers are superhuman, and this shouldn't be a worry?
It's a good question, Dustin. I think it's a product of a couple of different things. One, all the drivers are starting to study speedway racing and actually take it a little more serious. It's kind of the same way as road course racing, where people are like, oh, we're going to Watkins Glen or we're going to Sonoma, so I'm not really going to concentrate on it because it's only 2 races. Well, now that you have a chance to win a speedway race and qualify your way into the playoffs, guys really study it and figure out where to put their cars. So you'll see guys making runs or throwing blocks, and because they know to protect their track position, they got to be aggressive with those blocks. I think that's where some of the speedway racing, the product of it has changed over the past couple of years, just because the cars are tighter, the drivers are being a little more aggressive, and that's a heck of a lot more wrecks though when you look at the last 5 years compared to the others. So I'm not sure what quite you can blame it on. I think that obviously you can point to some of the package with it keeps the cars closer together with the 2 tandem stuff that we got away from, and then the high downforce stuff that we have right now. It certainly keeps the cars closer together, and you have to be aggressive to keep your track position.
Look, I know that, at the end of the day, you can make the decision whether you race or not. And obviously you continue to race as somebody who, certainly has had success, but also went through that big crash at, last year. How do you get into the car, or how do you manage that with what can happen? Or do you're a driver, you're superhuman, and that can't be a part of your thought process?
It certainly is a thought. It's in there, right? And I know that I definitely tug on the belts a little bit harder at Daytona and Talladega more so than I do at Martinsville. I can promise you that. It's just part of the deal, man. It's part of the job. It's why we make good money, because we are risking our lives each and every week for entertainment. So, but on the flip side of that, I know John Padillac, just from working with him through development, some of Dad's seats over at R&D Center. He is one of the sharpest guys that I know, and he's trying to make these race cars as safe as possible. And we're looking forward to the next gen car that's considerably more safe than what we have now. So when you get in, the NASCAR is doing everything they can to keep the cars as safe as possible. But at the end of the day, man, you just got to get in and put the helmet on and forget about it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Zach Sternalino. Go ahead, Zach.
Corey, you said this week on the Dale Jr. Download that, the equipment is better than what you kind of thought it was going to be heading into the season, with Ganassi, chassis, Hendrick motors, all those things, especially considering that there's going to be more 750 horsepower package races this year than there were last year. Do you feel like that's a better chance to kind of show your ability behind the wheel?
I mean, I think every week's going to be a better opportunity for me to show what I'm capable of doing behind the wheel, just because we have some up-to-date current cars in a motor package that's on the same platform as some of the other guys. So, I want to get through the road course unscathed. I think a goal of mine is top 20 on the road course, all the road courses, because, I think I only have 4 or 5 road courses under my belt in my whole life. So try to mitigate the losses there, but I'm excited to get to Vegas or Homestead and Vegas and Phoenix and Martinsville, some other places where I'm familiar with, and really see how we stack up, because I think that with all the notes we learned last year working with Ryan Sparks, he kind of knows the feel I look for in these race cars. We can add it to a lighter car that makes more downforce with some better motors. I think we're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
That said, with Ryan still atop the pit box for you, how critical was it that he came with you to Spire, and what can he bring as far in terms of success to this team this year?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't come as a package per se. I jumped on with Spire, and they were like, man, who do you want to crew chief? And I knew with working with Ryan and just the work ethic that he has and how motivated he is, there was some guys that they interviewed, but Ryan Sparks was certainly the most qualified guy, and the fact that we worked together was just an added bonus. So I'm excited to have him back, because now he's got some more tools to work with the simulation seat from Ganassi. He's got a Hawkeye over there at Spire Motorsports, so he's gonna be working really hard to maximize every angle of our car. And I think that's what showed at Daytona with both Spire cars running the 2 fastest laps of the weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question will come from Jenna Fryer. Go ahead, Jenna.
Hey, Corey.
Hey,
Jeff put out a statement after the 500. Did it feel like a win? Did you sense that they thought the performance was like a win? He
might have. Obviously he was excited enough to put out a release on Instagram, which, I had more people reach out to me about that than I expected, just that people realizing, Jeff's character and the people he thanked and the relationship got him to where they are as a race team. And somebody texted me actually about that this morning, and I was like, man, that's why that's why Jeff is one of my favorite people. And I had to rephrase and text back. I'm like, Jeff was one of my favorite people before I started driving for him. So the fact that I get to drive for one of my guys I've looked up to in the garage for the past couple of years is really neat.
And I'm wondering, do you think, I know it's only been one race, but you obviously noticed the difference in your program this year. Do you think you're a winning team?
Short answer, no, not at the moment. But the people and the tools that are in place to continue to build towards that. And obviously Spire's really hedging their bets towards this next gen car. The goal from the beginning the goal is always to go to the racetrack and run the best way possible. But to try to win this year wasn't necessarily the goal, because the bottom of the well is infinite with the way the cars are now. But the next gen car with the single source manufacturer, if we can get a couple more partners in the fold where we can, have a comparable racing budget with some of the teams like Hendrick and Stewart Haas, I really do think that we can compete for some races and some short tracks and some maybe every week. I think I have a little bit of things to learn, just to learn the pointy end of the garage, the tricks that Joey Logano and Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, what those guys do to close races out. I'll have to learn that stuff when time comes. But I'd like to think that, if I'm in a top 10 car, I can make that thing get up there and contend for wins one day.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Lee Spencer. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. I was wondering that you were joking last time you were on the Zoom about Steve Letart's big mouth down the hall, but have you spent any time with him, and has he, talked to you about, coming from a championship organization like Hendrick and, what you guys can do in the short term to aim towards that goal?
Yeah, Steve's been way more involved than I expect him to be. He actually might be involved more than he expected to be too. He's in there almost every day of the week, really. And he was sending me motivational text messages before the race, and he actually sent me a really nice and supportive and after the race, right at 2:00 in the morning or whatever it was. He stayed up, listened to the radio, our radio communications, and just reiterated that I was, that I'm the guy for the job, and he was impressed by me. So stuff, coming from a multi-time Cup winning crew chief like Steve Letarte, to have him in our camp means a lot, and for him to work with a lot of obviously some really great drivers, for him to tell me that it meant a lot. So I'm going to certainly lean on him for some leadership qualities and things like that. I haven't been around in the past that I can continue to lead on off the track stuff with our team. I think that's going to be just as important as what I can do on the racetrack.
Other than a place like the Daytona 500, the super speedways, where do you feel you do have your best shot to make a difference and to, show people what you're capable of doing?
I always have Talladega and Daytona circled because I've ran fairly well there, but Martinsville is a place I'm really looking forward to going. We've ran really well with, a 2006 Roush car at the 32 in the past. So I'm looking forward to driving a car that was built in this decade with a good engine pack, brakes, to see what we can do. I really think we can run top 10 in Martinsville, and if we don't, I'd be a little bit upset. And I think Ryan Sparks has that race circled as well. So I'm excited for Martinsville and see how we stack up.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Marty. Go ahead, Marty.
Thanks, Amanda. Hey, Corey. Hope you're doing well. Seeing Spire Motorsports get the top 2 fastest laps in the race. I know, obviously, it's a super speedway, but what can this show for the cars and engines headed into the meat and potatoes of the season? I know you said Spire's got up-to-date engines and chassis, but what does this show for you guys coming in?
Making me hungry with a meat and potatoes analogy. I think that I forgot where it was, whether it was the first media Zoom here before the 500 when, people asked if they can take Spire seriously.
Yes.
And I was like, well, check back in here in 6 months and we'll see if they're taking us serious. So we're 1 week into the year, and I would say that people should start taking us serious. And I get Daytona's Daytona with certain circumstances. You can pop off a fast lap like we did there, but you don't luck into 2 top 10 finishes in the 500 just because you're out there riding around. So, I'm like I said, I'm ready to get to Phoenix and Vegas and some intermediates to just see where we stack up speed wise and figure out those group of 4 or 5 cars that we can race consistently and figure out how to beat them. And I'm looking at cars like even RCR or JTG. I feel like we can compete and beat those guys each and every week, and wherever that stacks up in points, it should be somewhere between 19th and 22nd. I feel like that's where we should be running and continually getting better each and every week.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. Good luck to you this weekend.
Thanks, man.
Okay, our next question will come from Ashley McCubbin. Go ahead, Ashley.
Corey, as a young driver in the sport with lots of years left for you in your career, what does it mean to you in seeing a lot of people investing recently in the sport from a variety of different angles?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ashley. It's when you have a guy like Pitbull come in as a co-owner for Trackhouse Racing, you obviously have Denny Hamlin and the Michael Jordan team, and there are, from what I understand, there's 4 or 5 more heavily backed owners looking to try to get a charter to come into the sport. So, I think that just shows the level of excitement that people have, and also the business model that NASCAR is trying to push towards. It would make, it makes some financial sense for somebody to get into the fold with this next gen car and be able to compete right off the bat. So, I think the trajectory of NASCAR is certainly looking up. We can talk about the Daytona 500 TV numbers all day, but you got to take into consideration all the variables that they dealt with. I think that there's more excitement behind NASCAR since, you know, the late 90s, just with all the personalities coming in and stuff we're doing off the racetrack as well as on the racetrack now and going into the future.
And then looking at the Daytona road course this weekend, what do you feel is the biggest challenge?
Everything, the whole turn left, turn right, stop, go, all that's fairly hard. You know, and you got guys that have been doing it for a while with, you know, some more road course experience than others. And I'm probably at the bottom end of that experience line. So I'm going to certainly learn as much as I can from those guys at the front of the pack this weekend with my 7th starting position and just try to keep all four on the black stuff instead of the green stuff and try not to make any mistakes. You know, I think keeping the brakes on it with this low downforce package will be important to be there at the end because it'll be a lot longer than the Clash was.
Thank you. And thank you, Amanda.
Yes, thank you, Corey. This is all the time we have with you, but thank you so much for joining us this morning and answering questions here for the media, and best of luck this weekend as well.
Appreciate it. Talk soon.